Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Dadsigner podcast. I'm Michael Smith, your host, and today I'm joined by Brandon Triola. Hey, Brandon, welcome to the show.
What's up, man? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for hopping on. Brandon and I were internet friends, kind
We
of.
go way back.
And I asked him if he'd jump on because he recently released a book, and I wanted to talk about that. My wife did ask me, is your podcast becoming like an author podcast now? Because the last guest I had was an author. It's not intentional, but
Hey,
creative people cannot be contained to just
if we
designing
could get
things.
more creative people to write books, I actually think that would be so much better for the world. I think there's so much inside of creative people that for whatever reason, we just keep it in there. So maybe you're onto something.
I love to read, so I wouldn't be mad about it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but yeah, why don't you tell folks a little bit about who you are, where you're located, and a bit about your family?
yeah. So again, I'm Brandon Triola. I live in Franklin, Tennessee. What I say to people is about 20 minutes south of Nashville. And I've been married for 14 years and I've got four kids. So the way that I describe our life is our house is very loud. And so my son is 11, and then I have three girls, and it goes 8, 5, and 1, just like that. And I absolutely love it. We have a lot of fun. Again, our house is very loud. It's very active. These last couple of days, you can see I'm wearing warm clothing. We've been in what's called the ice-pocalypse down here in the south. So we had the big ice melt, the ice freeze, and trees are falling. A lot of people without power. So we've just been in the house for like the last 4 or 5 days. So it was funny because I have an office, and I'll give people a little more backstory. So I co-founded 5 years ago a brand and marketing consultancy called Forest, and we just work with B2B tech companies and companies building AI and enterprise technology. We have an office here in the city in Franklin, and but my kids are out of school, so I'm like, I'm not going. Like I never get to be here and be around them. And it's been awesome. Obviously, I still have work and stuff to get done, but just being in the house with them has been super fun these last couple days. But yeah, I don't know if I could say the same about my wife. I think she's about ready. She's about at her limit, but because we can't really go anywhere, so we're just it's kind of like back to quarantine mode back in 2020.
Yeah,
But it's been
and
awesome.
so school's been closed. Are they like asking the kids to do virtual because COVID opened that up as a possibility? Or are they giving them like true snow days?
No, and it is Wednesday today, and we did find out a little bit ago that they're like off the rest of the week. So my son
Wow,
ran in and like jumped on the bed, and he was like, "Let's go!" So yeah, but no, nothing like that. I mean, they have homework they have to do, and I don't know, they may send some assignments out, but yeah, what I tell people is like I've been doing the remote work as a dad since before like it was a thing. So I started when my wife and I got married in 2011. I did not have like a thing going as a graphic designer. I moved from Ohio to Tennessee, and I was like, I've got a moment. This is the only moment of window I'm going to have. I get to reinvent myself. I get to start over. At the time, I was doing design like as a hobby and like bringing in a little bit of money here and there. But this is before Creative Cloud for Adobe, for those of you that want to think about how far away 2011 is. Like I tell people, Photoshop came on a disc, and if you couldn't afford it, you had to steal a copy. So there's a gap, right, for what it took to actually be good creatively. So 2011, I'm like, all right, I'm going all in. I'm gonna do it. And started my business first year, like no money, super struggling really bad. And then after the first year, started meeting some people, started picking up some momentum and steam. And so 2011, and then my son was born 2014, and I've never had to go to an office. So I've just been doing the remote home thing for as long as I've known, for as long as I've basically been an adult. Like I got married and then I've been doing remote work. So working at home with kids has been a thing. So then when COVID hit and it was new for everybody, I was like, this is hard for some of you. Like, so yeah, man, it's been a wild ride.
that's cool. Yeah, the our my oldest daughter and your oldest son are the same age, and when she was born, I was still working in an office full time, but it was like we're in the suburbs of Philadelphia, and our office like kind of claimed to fame, and all the press that was around our office was like the Google of Bucks County, and it was like this big
Wow.
deal because we had slides and we had a cafeteria and all that kind of stuff. And to this day, my daughter still asks, like, "Dad, could we like go back to the office that has the slides?" I was like, one, no, because they're no longer there, and two, they wouldn't let me in.
Yeah. You could
Once you
try.
leave, once you leave, they don't like let you back
It's
just for
crazy.
fun.
Having kids, like speaking of being a dad, like I can't imagine how people, especially creatively, like don't how they do it without kids. But like for kids, for me, like having kids, it's giving me like this fuel and this motivation to not go back to the office, to not
Hmm.
have to go back to the office. And I know a lot of people get annoyed by their kids, but I love the like they're my inspiration. Like, yeah, everybody has their limit and yeah, they get hyper, but my kids literally inspire me. So like I said, they're here for 4 days and I'm just like, I'm not going into the office. They're always at school. They're always gone. And I actually get sad about it. I'm like, man, we only have so many years with them. So like being creative for a living for me has been amazing. And my kids have just given me this, they've given me the motivation to keep doing this at a high level. And what I say is like, they're my why. They're the why that I do this so that I can be around them. I don't create or just to make money. It's like all of it is like this vehicle to just be with them while I have them because they're growing up, dude. I mean, you have an 11-year-old, so what, 6, 7 more summers?
Yeah, we don't talk about that.
Isn't that crazy?
It's wild. It's wild.
Yeah, it's sad, but it's like so anyways, I'm taking full advantage of it.
It's such a good perspective. So in addition to running Forest or co-running Forest, you also recently wrote a book that we mentioned about earlier, Save the
I'll
Creatives,
hold it
which
up. I have one here. I'll hold it up too. Yeah, I got one here. Yeah.
um and yeah, why don't you tell folks why did you write this, and if they're going to dive into it, what will they benefit from?
Man, that's
Knowing that
such a
the
great.
audience is dads and designers.
Yeah, dads. Okay, dads, listen up. Okay. First of all, you don't have time if you're a dad. Like your time is now. Isn't it astonishing people who don't have kids that complain that they don't have time for something? Like I said to someone the other day, they're single, no kids, and they're kind of struggling in their career. And I was like, listen, you have no excuse for not being online cranking stuff out till 10 p.m. Like, do it. Build something amazing. They're like, I don't have time to update my portfolio. And I'm like, where do you have to be? Do you have to tuck anyone in? Are you not like, so what I say, tying that all back into the book, one of the reasons why I wrote this book was for my kids, like just so they would have something someday to like learn about their dad and how he works and how he approaches his vocation. That's one of the reasons why I wrote it. The real reason why I wrote it is, and I'm sure every dad, every designer, every dad, every creative person can relate to this. Talent is now a commodity because of AI. And that's a really harsh thing to say. And I know I say that, and some people are like, oh, you're telling me that I've spent 15 years learning how to get really good at this or whatever, and now it doesn't matter. And in a sense, yeah. In a sense, no. But in a sense, AI has totally commoditized how we view talent. And I actually saw that as an opportunity. I didn't see that as like a scary thing because for my whole career, I've always felt like, especially as it relates to design, I love design. I nerd out over it. But I've always felt like there are people up here that are really good. They're the people that you used to see on Dribble back in the day, and they've got their stuff has all the likes. And Dribble used to show the likes back in the day of how many likes a thing got. And I was so nervous to share my work on Dribble because I knew that it wasn't going to get that many likes and imposter syndrome. And what Dribble did for me, and I love Dribble by the way, but like it just like created this imposter syndrome ball of imposter syndrome in my chest. And I say all that to say, like, I've always succeeded in spite of not feeling very talented. Like, I know I'm not the most talented. And I'm constantly growing and learning and trying to get better. And a lot of people, if you see my work, there's a lot of really good stuff. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like, but I'm still not even close to being the most talented. And all of this started happening a couple years ago when some people that I follow on social media, who I esteem as like the most talented, one of them got laid off and they were documenting their story of being laid off. And then a year went by, having struggling to find work. And I'm going, this is a person with hundreds of thousands of followers. This is a person that's worked for some of the biggest brands on the planet and they're struggling financially. And I started connecting the dots. What if it wasn't talent that actually made us abundantly successful. Running parallel to that, COVID hits. My best friend and I, Nate, we went to high school together. We did ministry stuff together, and we started this thing called Forest. And we just watched it go up and to the right. And we're like, what is happening? Like, I don't have big agency experience. I'm not the most talented. Like, he came from an agency world, but he's not even a designer. He's more of like operations and like, business side of it. But together, like we merged our powers and we watched our business like explode. And so when it really clicked for me that I need to get the book done was he called me one day and goes, "Hey, I need you to look down at your phone." And I was like, "Okay." And it was a screenshot from his calculator. And there was like $1 million, million something. And I was like, "What is this number?" And he goes, that's how much we made this year. And I was like, "Man, that's crazy." I was like, "That's a lot." And he goes, "No, no. You think that I'm saying that's how much we brought in revenue wise." He goes, "That's how much we've profited." And I had never I come from a background like my dad is one of the most hardest working people. My dad was a mechanical engineer for over 30 years, made a good living, but supported us on one income. I've never seen a million of anything in my life, ever. Nor did I ever think I would ever see a million of anything. And to think of the thought that like maybe someday we'll get to a million in revenue. But what happens is most people that have a business of any kind, they share their revenue. And revenue is a vanity metric. That means most people that make $1 million, they spent 900,000 to get to the million. So really they only made 100,000. That's most businesses. Like most businesses do not profit very much, especially services. So if you can be at like a 25 to 30% profit margin as a services based business, let alone creative, you're doing really well. To see that we had profited that much in 1 year, I had like this explosion moment. And it's weird for me to share all that because it's humbling and it's like vulnerable because I'm afraid that people are going to think like I'm just talking about how much money we made. We made a lot of mistakes after we made all that money. And that's a whole nother podcast. But I realized something and I was like, oh my gosh, there are keys to this. There's like a path towards and what I call it abundant success. So there's success, like you can be successful creative. Great. Lots of things you can do to be successful. Make content, whatever. But abundant levels of success, there's another playbook entirely. And so as I'm watching these people more talented than me struggle, and then I'm watching us absolutely go up and to the right, I'm going, I have to write this down. I have to re-engineer this because I'm seeing what's happening with AI and I'm going, nobody's coming to do anything for creative people. Nobody's coming for us. Nobody's coming to help us. Nobody is like trying to carve out a space for us. If anything, they're trying to figure out how do I get more of this creative stuff done by spending less money? How do I further commoditize Michael and Brandon? Is basically what's happening. So that's why I wrote this book because I really wanted to do something to help save the creative people and especially the ones that don't feel like they're the most talented to go, you don't have to be radically talented to be wildly successful. It's just not true. What you need to do are 8 things. And the book talks about the 8 things. And I wrote down what those 8 things are. I call them the 8 uncommon keys because you might read them and go, "Oh yeah, I've heard this," but they're very uncommon and how you acquire them and how you make these keys part of who you are. And yeah, the eight uncommon keys for achieving abundant success and bulletproofing your career from AI. This book is not a book against AI, by the way. It's a book that teaches you how to exist on a level so far above it that you're not like weighed against it. It's like, oh, could the AI do what this person does and could I replace them? So it's literally the blueprint for how any creative person can become irreplaceable. And it was a lot of fun to write, and it's been really terrifying putting it out into the world because, like most creative people, dude, still get so freaking scared to show anything that I've done, to show my work, to show my company's work. It's so terrifying, but I hit a moment with this book where I was like, I really believe that this will help people. Like I did not write this to write a book. I actually wrote this to like give to the person who's struggling, that wants to break through, that feels hopeless, but doesn't want to go and become a nurse or an accountant or go into real estate. You ever meet someone that you're just like, that person was creative and it got hard and now they're selling real estate? Or like you see them on TikTok and they're hucking workout benches.
Yeah.
I can't do it, dude. Like I have to be creative for a living. So I wrote this book for those people that like you're wired this way. You're not. I'm not gonna cop out and go do something else. Like I have to be creative. And I have to be abundantly successful at the same time. So how do you do it? The book is the blueprint.
That's cool. If you're listening to this and you're not convinced after that, that this is for you, savethecreatives.com. Um,
And it's not just for designers. I'll say like I did, but by trade, like I started as a graphic designer and I still consider myself a designer. And I still believe that like design is, I think we're just going to see a totally new era. I think we're going to see people create things and I think we're going to see design like become more valuable than ever. That being said, I wrote the book for writers, videographers, photographers, designers, brand strategists. And I also wrote the book. This was another perspective. I didn't want to write a book for freelancers. I have to say that because there's a lot of people out there trying to do the solo thing and build a solo business. I wrote the book for in-house creative employees as well that are tired of hitting the ceiling. So the book speaks to both. And I think that's important because we see there's a lot of resources out there to help freelancers right now, to help the gig economy. And a scary stat, and an awesome stat, um, I think it's either by next year or by 2030, half of our economy will be gig economy. Half of the workforce will be the gig economy. So I felt like there's so many resources for the gig economy out there. Nobody's writing anything to the senior designer that works in-house. And really cool story too. The reason why I say all that is I'm finding people that are buying the book. There are a lot of in-house people that have been buying it, writing me, telling me thank you. Yesterday, one of the design leaders at Netflix bought the book, and I reached out, we emailed back and forth a little bit, and I was like, yes, because not everybody is called to go and start the business. Not
mhm.
everybody has it within them to go and do the entrepreneurial creative thing. That's okay. I almost got tired of seeing the shame that people wear around this. And what I like to say to people is look, especially if you're a dad and you're listening to this and you're thinking about taking the jump, it is a hard jump to go out while you have kids, start a business. You have to get really good at sales. You have to get really good at marketing. You have to be cool with not making money for a couple months at a time. Sometimes the most abundantly successful thing that you can do is just get a really stable job for a season and put food on the table for those kids. And especially if you can work remote and be home and be around them. So I like to like remove the glamour. I call it's like false entrepreneurial glamour from that we get from social media and society right now. And I want to equip all creatives to be abundantly successful, whether you're in the gig economy or whether you're in house.
Yeah. Yeah. So as you were writing the book, did putting it into actual words and into a blueprint and framework unlock anything for you that has changed the way that you're operating today?
If you notice about the book, it reads, there's a narrative like a video game. It's broken down into three levels. And at the end of each level, you have to defeat a boss. So there are bosses in our career as creative people that we actually have to defeat. I wrote the book like this one because like I have a short attention span, and I did not just want to write a technical book of information. I wanted to write this in a way that you could sit and read it and feel like you're going on a journey. And so writing it that way, it just unlocked for me that more of this content that I put out around it needs to follow like that as well. And so I've always been big into storytelling. I talk about that in the book as one of the cross-functional skills that every creative person needs to learn. So I think if anything, it just reinforced that people don't remember things based off of just information. They remember things in a story. So the book is a narrative where you've got to beat these three levels. And then once you beat these three bosses, and that's how you actually rise out above the game and you're not in the game anymore. You're actually controlling the game. And so I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. And you said at the outset that one of the reasons you wrote it was for your kids. What principles or how are you trying to weave at their different age levels? I mean, 11 down to 1 is vastly different psychologically, but do you find yourself trying to teach them any of these skills while they're young?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The story that I had this in the original manuscript and I pulled it out because it was too long. The story that I tell about being between 5 and 8, and my dad coming home from work And this is before people had computers. Okay. So this is 1992, 1993. Nobody had computers in the house yet. We were about to. He would bring paper home from work. We would sit at the dining table. We would get out just a pencil and we would just draw. We would draw Ninja Turtles. We would draw Batman. And I remember watching my dad, he would draw the Superman S. And my dad's an engineer, so his ability to look at something and draw at scale is unmatched. I mean, my dad can draw a perfect circle on a piece of paper on a whiteboard, and it looks like he used a freaking compass. Like he can draw a literally 90-degree square because he's for 30 years, he's designing wheels and brakes for airplanes. But I would watch my dad draw these little things and draw these symbols, and it ignited something in me, and we became fascinated with drawing. So while other kids are watching TV, we would just draw. We would draw everything. And it showed me something that creativity has to be nurtured in kids. You cannot say, hey, why don't you go draw a little bit? Why don't you go make something? You have to nurture it. You have to sit with them. You have to do it with them. So, perfect example, one of my favorite accounts to follow. It's this guy that teaches drawing. Like this, he teaches the simplicities of just like drawing. The name of the account is the art coach, the underscore art underscore coach. And he's got this little video where he's like, hey, here's how you draw three-dimensional flowers. So my daughter, she's 8, she's starting to really like pick up creativity as like it's becoming a part of her. So I sit with her, hey, watch this with me. We watch the video and then we went out to eat pizza. We're sitting at the pizza place. And so we take the little paper they give us with the crayons, with the little, the crossword puzzle, whatever. We flip it over and we start drawing the flowers right then and there. Today, she comes to me and she goes, look, I did it. She had remembered and she's like presenting to me these flowers that she did. And we have these moments probably 2 or 3 times a day throughout our house because I know that with kids, if they're going, first of all kids are creative. And if you don't nurture it, they will never fully pick it up, or they'll get to school and where everybody values math, science, and playing football or whatever, or sports, they will be shunned. They'll be basically like shunned or looked down upon if you don't nurture that into them and make it part of their identity and how they see the world now. So we're constantly having these things. I mean, our house is a big canvas. I mean, we got freaking murals painted on walls, and we've got paper hung up everywhere with drawings on it. And my wife and I don't shy away from it. We just like celebrate it and we nurture it because that's how you bring it out of kids and that's how you bring them into finding what they're going to do and be in the world creatively.
Yeah, that's cool. My daughter and I play a game when we go out to eat. We don't take the iPad. I always have
Yeah.
like a field notes in my back pocket,
Yes.
and I'll pull it out and we'll play like one or the other of us will take turns, just draws a random mark, and the other
Love
person
it.
has to turn it into something, a drawing. And rarely, like, obviously, these are not works of art. Actually, we were playing it the other day, and I think what I drew was like probably the worst thing ever. But I just thought it's just fun rather than having them stare at phones or ignore them to use that time. So now, like, we sit down and even if I'm tired, she'll be like, Dad, did you bring your notebook? Can we play the game? So it's really cool.
Yeah, you know what's crazy to think about, bro, is someday a long time from now, you're gonna be gone. Your kids are gonna be grown, and they're gonna have kids of their own. And hopefully they find that notebook. And that little scribble will be a treasure. It'll be a treasure to those kids. So as dads, this is why Dadsigners, what an opportunity for us to just leave our children with so many treasures, things that we've made, things that we've created, but also like these moments with them, drawing scribbles at the table, drawing flowers at the restaurant. These are things that they're going to care the most about when we're gone, not necessarily leaving them a Rolex or something like that. It's going to be these little things, these little creative things that we did with them and for them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Well, we could go for a lot longer, but I have two other questions I want to ask you.
Yes,
And
go.
those are, as a dad, what has been your greatest joy?
My greatest joy as a dad is watching my children become a living manifestation of like redemption in my own life. And sometimes as parents, we in an unhealthy way try to live vicariously through our kids. And, you see this a lot in sports. The dad yells at the kids, because either he was yelled at or he never felt like he performed at his highest and like it just comes out the wrong way or sideways. but there's a healthy way that it can come out. And to see my kids step into parts of their childhood in ways that are really whole and really pure and really beautiful, and those be ways that were really hard and really like things like really traumatizing. Like for example, I really struggled with school as a kid. I was terrified at school. I had a lot of anxiety at school. I did not like school. I went to public school. And to see my kids build friends and get confident, and to see the work that I've done internally turn around and have an impact on how they face the world, it's like seeing redemption happen in real time. So what I never got what I didn't have as a kid, I've had to get healing from later. And to see the way that my wife and I parent our kids, to see them step into the world and totally experience the things that I experience in a radically redeeming way, there's nothing better. There's absolutely nothing better. And I'll just give an example of this. So, uh, we're Christians. I did not grow up as a Christian. And my son one year came home. He was really sad. And I was like, "What's going on, buddy?" He's like, I'm just feeling left out." "What happened?" And I'm like, "Who said what?" And he was like, "No, just everybody has a Bible in my class except for me." Of all the things to feel peer pressure about, I was so pumped. I was like, "Buddy, sit down." I pulled out my phone. We went to Amazon, pick out any Bible you want. The fact that that was the thing that he was longing for. I mean, I didn't even read a Bible, so I was like 16. He was maybe 8 or 9 at the time. Like it was such a redeeming moment to just see my son be around people that are that are and they weren't really pressuring him at all. He was just watching them all read their Bibles and he felt left out. But to see that as the kind of thing, it was awesome to see. And he's got an awesome they have an awesome school and awesome kids, and obviously every kid has their own struggles, but just to see my kids step into healing in places where I didn't as a dad, that is the ultimate.
That's cool. That's cool. And then what has been your biggest learning as you've been a parent?
Well, parenting is death. And that sounds very heavy metal to say, but if you go into having kids with like what it's gonna how it's gonna impact your life or how beautiful it's gonna be for you, like you're thinking about it the wrong way. It's very similar to marriage. Most people whose marriage struggle is because they're still hanging on to something within themselves, or they're hanging on to some expectation. And for like husbands, it only works when you lay down your life for your wife. That's the only way that it works. When you take, here's everything I want to do and be, and you just, it's down here. And you live your life in service to that person. And then when they do that back to you, that's what creates like the most unbelievable level of intimacy that's ever on the planet, when both people lay down their will in service of the other. It's the same with parenting. If you're bringing kids into the world, you don't have a say. You don't get to be the guy anymore. Uh, you don't get to, like, you just don't. Like, I have 4 kids. Like, everything that I do is for them now. Everything that I do is setting them up. Something that helped me think about this was I had a mentor that said, the goal of parenting is not to raise great kids. The goal of parenting is to raise great adults. And it totally flipped and reframed how I was thinking. Because I had a young son at the time. We had 1 or 2 kids. And when I heard that, I was like, yeah, everything is now not about me anymore. Everything is about setting them up for becoming an adult. Am I preparing them to leave me one day and go out into the world? And that the level of sacrifice that that requires is so radical. But when you realize that and you embrace it, that's when parenting becomes really, really, really beautiful. But it's really, really hard because it's a death, and dying is hard. Dying to what I want to do. I want to go work out this evening. I might not have time. My wife might be exhausted and she might need me to make dinner, and I might have to do that and then do baths. And then you're just constantly having to die to your expectations. You think you're going to sleep through the night? No, we don't expect to sleep through the night. We're going to get woken up by somebody. Like, so that's a really hard thing for new parents to wrap their brain around. But like, I call it a beautiful death, and it's a willing death. And that is the place where I think that we become our best as humans, is when we're not living for ourselves anymore. We're living to lift them up and raise them up.
Yeah, that's good. Well, thank you again for joining us. If folks wanted to follow you online, get a copy of the book, see your work, any of that kind of stuff, where can they go to do that?
BrandonTriola.com is a great spot. There's some stuff on there. There's also another book that I want to tell people about that is really fun. And this was one that I made a couple years ago. It's called The Dadasaurus Rex. And it's a children's book for dads. And it's the scary adventure from grumpy to grateful. And this is the story of a creative dad who comes home from work really burnt out and has a really hard moment with his son who just wants to play with him. And this book was inspired by my son. And this book, I literally wrote this for every single dad on the planet. It's on Amazon. I don't know what it costs. It's maybe 14 bucks. If you have small kids, especially boys that love dinosaurs, this book will remind you that the greatest power that you have is your imagination and creating. So this is on Amazon as well. I wasn't going to plug this, but I was thinking about it as we were talking. And like when it comes to being a dad and a designer, this thing I'm really proud of, but this is the thing that someday this is going to become a Pixar movie. Like, mark my words. Like, I just got to meet the right people, and we're going to but it's fun. I illustrated the whole thing. So, and it's super short. It's only 40 some pages, but kids love it. It's fun. It's exciting. The dad gets trapped in the jungle. I won't tell you the end, but like, so I would just say brandontriola.com or go on Amazon. You can get either of those books. And then so forest.co is our business, Forest with two R's. Check out Forest if you're a designer too, like, and you are looking for work and like you've got a great portfolio, connect with me on like LinkedIn as well or Instagram. I'm always trying to add people to our roster. Like we work with a lot of brand designers and stuff like that when we need them. So obviously, if I don't know you, I can't hire you. So connect with me. And if I have something and you're a fit, like obviously we'll talk, like no guarantees, but if you're listening to this you just want to follow along with me on Instagram too. Instagram's probably the best like social platform just to follow along. I'm on there the most.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it, Michael.